Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 27th of April. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We begin with a nation in crisis. A series of aftershocks is hampering search and rescue efforts in Nepal after a powerful earthquake devastated large parts of the country on Saturday. Over 3,200 people are now confirmed dead, but that number is sure to rise as the search for bodies buried under the collapsed buildings in the capital continues and rescuers struggle to reach more remote regions. Shin Se-min reports.
The scale of the damage, destruction, and death caused by the earthquake remains fluid as Nepalese dig through the rubble looking for any signs of survivors. The conditions grew worse on Sunday night as rain pummeled the capital Kathmandu. For those who did survive, the situation is harsh. Tens of thousands of survivors slept outside on the streets on Sunday night after the quake struck. Some moved into shelters on Sunday, but the structures are not well constructed and their numbers are insufficient. Outside of the capital, landslides caused by the aftershocks are hampering rescue operations as workers struggle to reach remote regions of the country. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck just before noon on Saturday, with the epicenter just 60 kilometers east of the capital, Kathmandu. Less than a day afterward, a strong aftershock rattled the nation again, sending people back into a panic. And the underground plate that shook Nepal also sent tremors through India, China, Tibet, and Bangladesh. Countries have rushed to send aid and personnel to the devastated nation, and relief groups began arriving on Sunday. India, China, and Pakistan were the first to respond. India flew in medical supplies and disaster personnel, while Pakistan is sending aircraft with necessary supplies. Korea's foreign ministry said Monday that it will send a rescue team along with $1 million in humanitarian aid. Other countries, including the U.S., the United Arab Emirates, Britain, Germany, and France, have also pledged support. Relief efforts have been hampered by aftershocks that have closed Nepal's main airport multiple times as supplies of food, water, and medicine dwindle. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye has returned from her four-nation tour of South America. During visits to Colombia, Peru, Chile and Brazil, she sealed dozens of deals expected to pave the way for Korea to diversify economic cooperation with the region. Our Chae-Sun reports.
Korea's presidential office says President Park's South America tour has helped Korea diversify its cooperative partnerships with the region beyond trade. It also found ways to join the two sides' innovation-led growth initiatives for future co-prosperity. Marking the first joint local production of Korea's trainer jet, the KT-1P with Peru, President Park said the two sides should focus more on win-win partnerships.
페루가 추진 중인 다목적 고등훈련기 사업 등 다양한 분야에서 필요한 협력을 지속해 나가기로 하였습니다.
With South America severely lacking medical personnel and services, Korea signed deals with Peru, Chile, and Brazil to help them develop their telemedicine services, including a smart hospital vessel. This, in turn, is expected to offer Korean medical equipment manufacturers a better chance to launch their business in the region's $11 billion telemedicine market. Securing deals with all four countries' e-commerce associations and major distribution companies, Korea expects to better benefit from its FTAs and increase related exports to $3 billion in 5 years.
지구 반대편이라는 물리적 거리를 해소하기 위해서는 온라인 기반의 교육 시스템 활성화가 필요합니다.
Korea will also work with Chile and Brazil to support their startups and assist job seekers, as well as increase exchanges between their young people. President Park's trip has taken Korea a step closer to winning various infrastructure projects in the region, each worth billions of dollars, such as Colombia's subway construction and Peru's river restoration. Chae-Sun, Arirang News.
The resignation tendered by Prime Minister Lee Wang-gu will be officially accepted as early as this Monday, with President Park returning back to Korea from her South American tour. Once the resignation is accepted, Deputy Prime Minister Choi Kyung-hwan will be acting Prime Minister until a new person is found. Prime Minister Lee Wang-gu tendered his resignation last week due to mounting pressure from both political camps to resign amid a very high-profile bribery scandal. Lee was one of 8 ruling Saenuri Party politicians listed on a suicide note left by late businessman Song Wan-jong, who allegedly gave kickbacks to a number of politicians. The ruling Saenuri Party and the government will meet today to discuss fast-tracking a series of long-stalled bills on human rights in North Korea. The bills, which have been stalled in the Parliamentary Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee, have been pending since 2005 due to bipartisan differences over their content. Now, one of the most contentious bills includes a proposal to fund South Korean civic groups that fly anti-North Korean leaflets across the border. The ruling party supports the bill, but the main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, is against it. Some lawmakers have argued that the passage of the bill would unnecessarily stir up inter-Korean tensions. South Korea has lifted its 5-year ban on providing fertilizer to North Korea. Seoul's Unification Ministry said on Monday that it has given the green light for Ace Gyeongnam, the foundation run by South Korean bed maker Ace, to visit North Korea as part of its aid project for setting up greenhouses there. The plan includes providing 15 tons of fertilizer to the north, along with other materials like vinyl and pipes necessary for training and conducting trial setups of greenhouses. Seoul has banned fertilizer aid to North Korea since it imposed heavy economic sanctions on the regime following Pyongyang's torpedo attack on a South Korean warship in 2010. The group will cross the border by car on Tuesday and return on Saturday. North Korea has opened up about the ongoing wage tussle at the inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex. It says the economic relationship between the two Koreas won't last long if only one side is making a profit. Pyongyang made the claims on Monday, citing an academic journal it published in February before unilaterally raising the minimum wage for North Korean workers at Kaesong by 5% to $74 a month. The article said the two Koreas must come up with a fair principle and a common purpose for a balanced development of the complex. North Korea also took credit for allowing South Korean companies to use part of its land almost free of charge. Experts in Seoul say North Korea appears to be dissatisfied with its current profit earnings from the complex. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is in Boston for the start of his week-long US tour, the highlight of which will be his landmark address to a joint session of the US Congress on Wednesday. And one of the big questions for many watching in this region is whether his remarks include an apology for Japan's wartime atrocities, though what he doesn't say may be just as important as what he does. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe kickstarts his week-long U.S. tour in Boston as he looks to strengthen Tokyo-Washington ties. Upon his arrival Sunday, Abe had dinner with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. The Japanese leader is scheduled to visit the site of the Boston Marathon bombing and give lectures at Harvard University and MIT on Monday. After that, he sets off to Washington for summit talks with U.S. President Barack Obama on Tuesday and a highly anticipated speech to U.S. Congress the following day. All eyes are on whether Abe will use the historic occasion to issue a long-overdue apology for Japan's atrocities during World War II. Abe's lack of genuine remorse for his country's actions has caused Tokyo's relations with Seoul and Beijing to dip to new lows in recent years. Prior to Abe's visit, 25 U.S. congressmen sent a joint letter urging him to address history issues. Mainstream U.S. media like the New York Times have also said Abe's success in the U.S. will depend on how he confronts Japan's past wrongdoings. Relations between Korea and Japan have been strained for years, as Tokyo refuses to accept Korea's demand that it formally apologize and compensate the Korean victims of Japan's wartime system of sexual slavery. Despite intense pressure, there are indications Abe is unlikely to issue an apology during his time in the U.S., meaning Seoul-Tokyo ties will continue to remain frosty. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
And staying on that note, Japan has retained its US PR firm ahead of Abe's speech to Congress, echoing similar moves made by Korea last week. According to the Korea-based Yonhap news agency on Monday, the Japanese government engaged former US Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle early this month to handle political and policy issues related to its US interests. US-based PR magazine O'Dwyer's reported last week that Japan has retained its contract with the Daschle Group, which is headed by the ex-Democratic leader. Also last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Korean government had hired a US PR firm to promote its position on Japan's wartime history ahead of Abe's speech. An official from Korea's foreign ministry said the move is part of efforts to strengthen existing relations work in light of Abe's speech. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, otherwise known as ASEAN, is pushing to become a leaner, more efficient organisation as leaders gather in Malaysia on this Monday to take stock of their plan to create a common community before the year is out. One of the agendas to decide is whether to hold their summits just once a year instead of the twice as they do now. Ahead of the summit, the Philippines called on ASEAN to take a stand against China's land reclamation in the disputed waters of the South China Sea. Speaking at a meeting of ASEAN foreign ministers on Sunday, the Philippine Foreign Secretary said that if China's construction of artificial islands on reefs claimed by other countries is allowed to be completed, then Beijing will impose its claim over more than 85% of the sea. China continues to defend the reclamation, saying it's Chinese territory and the structures are for public use only. Korea's economy has been stumbling along in recent months, but there's one market that's been flourishing. Stores that sell heavily discounted goods that might have a damaged label or a slight scratch are doing a roaring trade. Our Kim Min-ji reports on how, for some, perfection is not worth the price.
This store on the outskirts of Seoul draws hundreds of visitors each day. The main attractions are the deeply discounted products that are somewhat less than perfect. The products sold here are categorized as B-class due to slight imperfections or minor scratches. But on first glance, they look completely fine and they can be up to half the original price. Big items such as refrigerators and washing machines have the biggest discounts, while basic kitchen appliances are often 20 to 30% cheaper, and they're becoming a big hit with consumers.
Even though the products have minor imperfections, they work just as well as the new ones, and most importantly, they're really cheap. That's why I shop here.
Here, an online B-class mall has opened a pop-up store in a bustling area of Seoul. But the store does more than just selling the products. It also wants to show that items are good to eat or use even though the expiration date is approaching.
One of our goals is to boost trust in our products. We regularly conduct safety checks and maintenance on our products and facilities so that consumers know they can eat or use while we sell without having to worry.
It seems to be working with about 500 orders a day and their sales jumping between 60 to 80% every month. Online malls like this are also growing in number as they are a useful way of resolving the problem of throwing out products that have passed their shelf life. But consumers don't seem to be too concerned about the B-class tag.
I read an article saying that food products are okay to eat even if they're slightly past their expiration date.
The food I buy, I plan to eat right away, so it's okay even if the expiration date is near.
Experts, however, advise consumers to check what's wrong with the products before purchase and are calling for more oversight.
There needs to be checks in place so these products meet health and safety standards, and so that substandard products aren't being sold as B-class.
The expert pointed out that the popularity could hint that the economy is not doing well. But with consumers becoming more savvy when it comes to bargains, Korea is likely to see even more of these stores popping up. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Have a great start to the week, and thanks as always for watching. We do hope to see you at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.